Hello, Puggies. Hello, everyone. Hello, Kim, and hello, Tonka. It was wonderful to see you and a few other people joining us tonight as we start to get going. So thank you so much for joining me this evening, and it's going to be really, really great. So tonight it's all about Charles, and I know he's being a bit of a grumpy old man, which is why I've got a picture up of him. And so this is Charles. Hey, and he's got his little necktie on tonight. We decided, hello. So he decided that tonight. Oh, hello, Rachel. Thank you for that lovely comment. I do love him in that outfit, which we will talk about. Hello. So Charles has decided he's now going to stand. Standing ovation for the good-looking puppy. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. It's always after the first couple of episodes where we had a few issues. It's always good to double check at the start before we start going. So it's wonderful to see everyone who's joined so far tonight. I really do appreciate it. And as I said, Charles, who has now decided that he's going to stand, tonight is all about the second half of my dynamic duo that helped me start Pug Parties. It's all about Charles. So my two, hello, Tonka, hello from Charles too. As I said before, thank you to everyone who's already said hello. For those who are new to the live stream, all you need to do to be in the running for this week's I've had a complete mental blank gift card, which is awarded at the end of the live stream. You just need to say hello, and then we'll go from there. Hey, Elvie, hello too. And today we've actually got a really big announcement, which we're going to make at the end of the show. So I invite you to stay till the end. So not only in the running for a gift card, but we've also got some other news to let you know too. So thank you to everyone who's joining. I really do appreciate it. The thing I love about Sundays is in the morning you have playgroup, and then in the evening we get to talk pug just a little bit more. So it was really, really nice to actually go to playgroup this morning for the first time in a few weeks. And thankfully, as I'll talk about Charles today, Charles was a well-behaved pug, so which you will understand why as we get into it. So hey, we've just in case you're wondering, Rosie has decided that she's going to spend the night with Dad on the couch. If it's not about Rosie, then we're not interested. So, but don't worry about it. It's Rosie's turn next Sunday, so she'll get plenty of time. So thank you for everyone who's joining us, and we'll keep going and we'll get cracking because, hey, I think Charles can hear Dad outside. So as I mentioned last week, for those that haven't been with us before, Charles is one of two pugs that we rescued. So Andrew surprised me with the assertion that 2 was the magic number of puggies for our forever family after we had lost my first pug, Lewis, a few years prior. And we popped onto Pug Rescue and Adoption thinking that we wouldn't be able to find 2 pugs in quick succession. So we thought we'd start shopping, and lo and behold, the universe just provided us with these 2 litter brothers who were originally called Sumo and JJ. And as you found out last week, we renamed Sumo Winston after Winston Churchill. And so obviously JJ ended up becoming Charles, which I will share how we got to Charles's name in a minute. And so they had to be adopted together because the ladies were concerned about the well-being of both pugs if they were separated. And I can vouch for that because the impact that losing Winston, hello Jennifer, thank you so much. The impact on Charles when we lost Winston last year was something that we just weren't prepared for. So we were really happy that we got to adopt both boys at the one time. But interestingly, like all siblings, Charles was the polar opposite of Winston, and not just in colour. So Winston was a black pug, and as you can tell, Charles here, even though he's gotten darker at his old age, is a fawn pug. So a little bit about Charles's backstory, like we gave Winston's last week. Sorry, he's decided he wants to have a bit of a shuffle around a little bit. How about you sit down? That's it. Good boy. He kind of wants to stand, but he also wants to rest his chin. So Charles, when he was rescued with Winston, was emaciated. So he had a cleft palate that made it almost impossible for him to eat safely, which basically meant that as he was eating, food would cut off his breathing. So what would end up happening is, what we think it happened at meal times is that Charles would start to eat, and he'd eat as much as he could, and then he'd let Winston basically finish off his meal. Hence, one pug tipping the scales at 14 kilos, which we shared last week, was Winston's going weight when they were rescued, and the other pug, which was Charles, only being 4 at the age of 2. And so when they were rescued, the vet said apparently it's quite rare for a dog with an unrepaired cleft palate to last as long as Charles did. And the consensus was that having his brother there with him kept him going for longer than the average. And to be honest, Andrew's and my experience with the two boys, especially in the early days, was that there was definitely that brotherhood bond that kept them going, and the girls were right. Separating them would have just been so detrimental to them. So quite interestingly, everything got fixed, which was wonderful, and we got the weight on him, and at the same time got the weight off Winston. What's going on, puppy? Charles has decided he's a bit, hey, how about I do that? How about that? So Charles was actually quite an energetic pug as a youngster once the surgery had sort of, everything had settled down and he'd regained his health, but he was always the quieter of the two boys. So he, as I've always said, he's the snuggle pug of the two. So he preferred to snuggle down his bed or on my lap like he's doing now, or between my feet whenever I stop for too long. And that includes when I'm doing the ironing. So it's amazing the number of near misses I've had over the years with this one, where I've tripped over him or accidentally trod on his paws, which I absolutely hate. And I tell you what, there are some days where I think I spend more time apologising to Charles for treading on his paws than I do actually getting any work done. Unlike Winston, who I talked about last week, who was a cunning little pug, believe me, he was so smart. Charles was the good boy. So even at the age of 2, he was the pug that excelled at obedience training. It was amazing. And my father, who trained hunting dogs, who appreciates a well-behaved dog, said there was nothing that he'd ever seen before, especially in a breed that doesn't normally do as they're told. We all know what that's like, don't we? And it's definitely something that his brother wasn't. But it was interesting because we always assumed that with Charles's rough start to life, that we would probably lose him first. We thought between the cleft palate and him being so emaciated and not eating enough food, that we honestly thought that Charles would be the sickly pug, for want of a better term, and that in all likelihood we would probably lose him first, and that we would only have Winston. And because Winston was such a different personality, we kind of thought, well, if we lose Charles first, Winston would be okay. and that would give us time to find Winston a new friend. So as you can imagine, when we lost Winston at the start of last year unexpectedly, we were so unprepared for Charles and having to deal with it that we just we're a bit of a shit fight, to be brutally honest. But amazingly, even with the rough start to life, and then he's got a few other health issues now in his old age, we're amazed that he's such a resilient little boy, hey, my man, that he's actually still around. He just takes a little bit longer to get there these days. So some of the other things that he has, so he has dermatitis that gives him sensitive skin. So we've got to put puppy paw ointment on quite regularly, especially during the summertime. For a long time, he used to get recurring ear infections. And as you can imagine, it meant daily drops, and he got very good at doing the dip and twist. So I'm sure you've probably had the same thing where you've had to put eye drops or eardrops into your pug's ears, and he got very good at dipping his head and then basically doing this. It was an absolute terror for it. So it's not something that we ever like to do, and it just amazes me because he never liked having it done for himself, but it doesn't stop him from slobbering in Rosie's ears every day, which completely grosses me out, as I've mentioned before. The whole ear licking because it tastes like candy to dogs is just gross. But yeah, so thankfully, since Winston's passed and Rosie doesn't slobber in his ears, Charles doesn't get ear infections anymore, which is wonderful. But of course, the other thing is now that he's 12, he turned 12 at the start of the year, he's recently been diagnosed with a degeneration of the spine, which will eventually see him get a set of wheels. And that's okay. We're dealing with it every day, aren't we, puppy? So he's on a number of drugs to try and slow down the progression. And thankfully, at the moment, he's still mobile. So it's just at his own pace, which is fine. And of course, as you can imagine, we now have a puggy buggy, or what we call our puggy stroller. We call it the puggy buggy. And pretty much what we now do is when we're going for a walk, and hey, Charles, Rosie can obviously go a little bit further and all that sort of stuff. So basically, Charles walks the few hundred meters that he can do at his own pace, and then when he's had enough, he pops himself into the puggy buggy, i.e. he barks at me and tells me to pop him in the puggy buggy. And basically, he then gets to sit there and enjoy the rest of the walk like King Mutt in the top of his in the puggy buggy. So he does pretty well. So the other thing that we've noticed recently is that he's started suffering from seniors moments. And he's given us a scare a couple of times so far. And it's pretty much reinforced to Andrew and I that he's no longer a young pug, even though he's never really let anything stop him now. So I'll tell you about one of the senior moments in a minute. Hey, how you going, Charles? So that's pretty much the background about our young Charles. So we, as I mentioned before, he was called JJ. Sorry, I'm just going to shift Charles up a little bit. I'm a bit worried his bum's going to slip off the chair. So we named Charles's brother Winston after Winston Churchill. And according to Andrew, because my grandfather was the one that had pretty much chosen Winston's name, Andrew decided that that meant, so he's a little pug soldier. He is Kim. Thank you so much. So Andrew said that basically because I had inverted commas chosen Winston's name, that meant that he got to choose Charles's name, which is not an unfair balance between the two of us. And Andrew sort of felt that with a brother who had a name like Winston, that it was only fair that we give him an equally gentlemanly name. And who better than the Australian aviation adventurer, Charles Kingsford Smith? I will add that Andrew actually called his daughter Amelia after Amelia Earhart. So I wasn't surprised when he decided on calling our boy Charles after Charles Kingsford Smith. And like Winston and his Giles, I think Charles has really grown into the name over the years. His calm nature but energetic approach to how he lives, even when he was a young pug, I think he now sort of resembles the retired Kingsford Smith these days. Hey, ain't that right, puppy? But he's always been my serious boy, yes. Hey. So, and I've been quite lucky because he decided to choose me as his human. Winston, it was funny. Winston was sort of chose whoever was going to feed him pretty much. But I have to admit, I am dead to Charles when Poppy is around. He's happy to have, he is happy to sit on my lap and follow me around and do all those wonderful things that pugs do, right up until my dad shows up, and then it's all about Poppy. So much so. It's incredible. And it usually means that when Poppy shows up, it's extra treats. And it's going out into the garage with Poppy and Dad to enjoy a few things, including getting to wander around the front yard because there's all these extra smells that we don't get in the backyard. But I have to admit, the one thing that I do love about Charles is his cuddliness. He loves being picked up and cuddled. And if I let him, to be brutally honest, he would happily be carried around everywhere, absolutely everywhere, if it wasn't for the fact that my arms would be dead. He especially loves cuddles at playgroup. And Auntie Linda and Auntie Lynn, who give him extra special cuddles, you can tell that he loves it just by the look on his face. He just quite happily plumps himself down and squidgles in, and then he's also very happy. He's also, as you probably can't see it in the video now, Charles is also a chin rester. So he's most happy snoozing on his beanbag. And he's the best when he gets to rest his chin on the hind side of the bag. So he buries himself down into the bag and then sort of gets the beans up so that he can prop his head up. He'd also do this with Winston and obviously now with Rosie. If they're in the bed with him, he will quite happily squidge himself around in the beanbag so that he's then resting his chin on Winston and now Rosie. He has allowed Rosie to reciprocate with the chin resting, but to be honest, it's pretty much in Charles's favour when it comes to sleeping on the beanbag and having a chin rest. There's I think it's definitely his thing that he does all for himself. Okay. So amazingly, like we've only had Rosie for about 12 months, but as I mentioned before, the loss of Winston last year put Andrew and I into unknown territory again. It was difficult handling our own grief whilst also trying to figure out how we were going to support Charles whilst he come to terms with the loss of his brother. It was one of those things where when we lost Lewis, it was just us grieving his loss and getting used to not having him around and snoring from his strategically placed bed when he'd had enough of following us around. And so it was a really different experience for us. And we had to figure out how we could keep Charles from getting lonely whilst we also collectively grieved the loss of Winston at such short notice. And we figured out what we were going to do next because neither Andrew nor I were sure if we should get Charles another companion immediately. We sort of kept asking ourselves, would it be too much for him in such a short period of time? Going from having Winston to not having Winston to then having another pug come in at the last minute. So, or, and is this permanent? Is this going to work? And so we were sort of amazed. The one thing that surprised us about the period between when we lost Winston and when Rosie came into our lives, Charles did something that he'd never done before. So we can only attribute it to his reaction to the loss of Winston. And that was his nocturnal activities. So for about 6 weeks, from a couple of days after we lost Winston until we got Rosie about 6 weeks later, Charles would come into our bedroom and start barking at us between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, like every morning, including the weekends. And it was just so out of character for him. It was just we just didn't know what to do. And I'd just like to say, side note, Winston and Charles chose from an early stage to sleep wherever they wanted. So when we first got them, they started to sleep in our bedroom. But once they'd sort of had the toilet training down pat and all that sort of stuff, they just decided that they didn't want to sleep in the bedroom anymore. They wanted to have, and because their beds were all over the house in all the different rooms, they just pretty much, it was quite funny. It was almost like, oh, tonight I might sleep in Mum's office, and tomorrow night I might sleep in Dad's office. So you can imagine sort of going from not having had them sleep in our bedroom for years to then having Charles coming in like in the early hours of the morning to wake us up and continually bark until we got out of bed. It wasn't even like a little bit of a bark, it was a big bark. We initially thought that it was the bark of wake up and feed me, even though it was like a couple of hours before his body clock should have been asking for food. It was just amazing. Puggy alarm clock, absolutely, Kim, completely agree. God bless them when they do it. So, but what we think after the first few days when we realised it just wasn't going to stop was that the bark was actually, where's Winston? It wasn't actually about food. It was, where's Winston? And we just, Andrew and I looked at each other and went, how do we respond to that? There is, other than picking him up and giving him a cuddle and making sure he feels loved, there really wasn't anything else we could do. It was just a horrible time for us all, I think, to be honest. And so what we ended up doing was we brought him back into the bedroom. So we moved one of the beds back into the bedroom, and he slept on my side of the bed, being that he's a mummy's boy. And we thought that was the best thing that we could do until he sort of come to terms with Winston's loss. And we found a better long-term solution. And to be honest, that long-term solution, even though we looked at puppy daycare, we looked at extra playgroups, all that sort of stuff, it ended up being that the universe just resolved it for us. And that was to deliver Rosie to us. And I'll talk about how Rosie came into our lives, because it was a very different situation to anything we'd ever experienced. But I'll talk about that next week when it's the young lady's turn, and she will be here for that. So, but the one thing that I will say about Rosie's arrival was the impact that she'd had on Charles. As I mentioned before, Andrew and I were really unsure as to how introducing another pug so soon after the loss of Winston, how that impact would be on Charles. And to be honest, she was meant to come and stay with us for a couple of weeks only, and he was just smitten. And I just, to the point where he was smiling within days of her coming to stay with us. And Andrew and I were sitting there looking at just how happy he was, thinking, oh my God, he really does miss his brother. And then, of course, the next thought was, oh my God, what are we going to do when Rosie has to go home to a family? It's just, we're going to put him through it all over again. We felt like the worst pug parents in the world, I can tell you. And so it was just, as I'll go into more details next week, but as you can imagine, Rosie ended up staying. So it was meant to be, thank God. And thank God for that, to be brutally honest, because we were really at our wits' end as to how we were going to manage Charles moving forward. Now, for those that know Charles well, you'll agree that he'll go to playgroup, for those of you that come to playgroup with us. And he'll rarely engage with other pugs. He really is a mummy's boy / a homebody. He always prefers to stand close to me or Andrew, and the only time he ever I'm trying to shimmy a pug who's sliding down my leg at the moment to where he's going to fall off the chair. And his one concession, I suppose, would be the best way to put it, for going to playgroup, because Winston loved playgroup. And Rosie does enjoy going to playgroup, which is why we continue to go. Plus, I love talking pugs, so got to go to playgroup. He does love, as I said before, getting cuddles out of Auntie Linda and Auntie Lynn. But he really wanders far. And I usually have to walk around the group to make him socialise for a few minutes with the other pugs and the other humans at playgroup. It was just something that I always had to do. The only way I would get Charles to move around was if we walked, and he would just follow, noting, as I mentioned before, he would happily stand between my feet if I just stood still for too long. So as you can imagine, a few weeks ago, which was actually our last playgroup before we went back into another snap lockdown here in Victoria, we lost Charles. And not only did I lose sight of him, we couldn't find him. And for the first time ever, I just didn't know what to do. I was absolutely shocked. It was once we'd done that initial look around of, hey, I can't see Charles. Is Charles over there with you? That sort of stuff. We had a quick fan out to look around, and that was when we realised that Charles was just not within the leash-free area. And all I could think was, oh my God, he's had one of those senior moments. And being that he's not the sort of pug to wander off in the park, you can imagine 10 minutes of searching before we found him, and I just didn't know what to do. I was just absolutely amazed, God help me. True to form, though, when we finally found him, it was one of the other pug parents that found him in the main car park of the reserve that we now have this particular playgroup at. They said they found him. He was standing in the main car park, which we haven't parked in for years, looking around, trying to find us. And I can only surmise that he went in search of me when he lost sight of me at playgroup. And instead of going to the other car park area where the car was parked, and it's at a completely different end of the park, but it is closer to the leash-free area, we think that he went to the car park that he remembered that we first parked at when we first started going to Pug City Playgroup years before with Winston. But I was just amazed, and when the pug parent who found him, bless him, handed him over to me, I'm not joking, the look on Charles's face was, what's all the fuss for? And I'm not joking, he literally snorted at me like, I don't know what you're fussed about, Mum. It's just like I just went for a walk, and really it was your fault because I just couldn't find you. And so I had to go looking for you. So I just don't know what the hell's the problem. But at that point, and I have to admit, I just ignored the snort because for a good couple of minutes, I thought that he'd been taken by someone. And all I could think was, I have to go home and tell Andrew that I've lost Charles. And not only that, our pug that never wanders off, I've managed to lose him. And of course, as you can imagine, when I got home and told Andrew, he jokingly called me a bad pug parent and that I was never, ever, ever allowed to take Charles to playgroup ever again, because obviously I can't be trusted to look after the one pug that rarely escapes. Wow, that was so mean. I was so unimpressed with him. I didn't talk to him for a whole half a day, and of course cuddled Charles for the rest of the day. But needless to say, we had playgroup this morning, which was wonderful, wasn't it? It was a beautiful day. And Charles now has a new winter coat. So his last winter coat was grey, which made him blend in. And Lord knows I never thought that I would have to really think about the colour of Charles's winter coat. But let's just say that he's now got a yellow coat. So what's the saying? Orange is the new black. I'm telling you now, yellow is the new orange. His colour is prison yellow. And then that way we can ensure that we never lose Charles ever again. Luckily today, he didn't wander off, and when he started to wander, I was onto him. I was literally onto him. He seems so impressed now. He's fast asleep in my arms. Surprise, surprise, with his chin resting on my arm. Hey, puppy? So probably the last thing I wanted to share with you was, and I didn't actually do this with Winston last week, but I definitely wanted to do it this week because as I was searching and choosing the photos that I wanted for the opening video of Charles, some of my favourite photos of him from over the years, I wanted Yellow Submarine, yes, definitely that. Hey, Charles, I need you to sit up a bit, pup. So I wanted to end tonight's live stream talking about Charles and sharing with you my favourite outfit for Charles and why. So obviously Captain Homebody, who just wanted to sleep and didn't want to sit up for the entire time, I always include a photo so at least you can see, hey, my handsome devil. So my favourite outfit on Charles is the one that you can see in this photo at the moment. And that is our, yes, puppy, it's okay, our shirt and vest and bamboo bow tie. Yes, handsome, yes. Because I think you'll agree, as you can see in the photo, he just looks so smart, hey? And it really does suit his serious, hey, serious demeanour. And when I do love Bring Your Dog to Work Day, and so Charles always gets dressed up in his little suit and tie, hey? So that he's a pug that can be taken seriously, hey, in the office, hey? And so tonight he decided that he didn't want to wear his shirt and vest. We believe it or not, I've mentioned before in posts about the fact that we don't force our pugs to wear clothes at photo shoots if they're not in the mood. So tonight, Charles was not in the mood for putting his shirt and vest on. All I was allowed to do was put on his necktie. So he's looking naked smart, for want of a better term. Hey, so he's only got his necktie on. We decided that we didn't want to put our shirt and vest on. And I just had to basically deal with it. Hey? So it's so wonderful to have so many people join us tonight. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I love sharing these moments. Hey? I love sharing these moments about my pugs. And with next week being Rosie's turn, that is my last pug that I am going to talk about. And so the wonderful announcement that we're making tonight, and thank you so much for joining us, is that we want to open up the live stream to you. So everyone who's a member of the Pug Parties Grumble or friends that you know who love talking pug, and I am certain you have more than a couple of funny stories about your pug up your sleeve, and that you love talking about and sharing with other pug parents at playgroup or wherever you go, then we want to invite you, that's me, Charles and Rosie, to come and join us one Sunday night and tell us all about yourself and what it's like living your pug life. And the best part about doing this is that you get to gush about your pug to other pug lovers. So people who understand and who get it, which is just absolutely awesome. So if that sounds like a super fun way to spend 30 or so minutes on a Sunday evening, then send me an email at haylo, Haylo, at pugparties.com, or you can send me a direct message or pop a comment below and let me know if you're interested. I also, if you know a pug parent or two who'd like to join us in on the fun, then please share the post with them and let them know that all they need to do is join the Grumble by sending us an email or a direct message or a comment, whatever works best for you, letting us know that you would actually like to be interviewed. So it's 30 minutes. I'll ask a couple of questions, but basically the idea is you get to talk about your pug exactly like I've just been doing for the last few weeks, which I have to admit I've enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would, which is just wonderful. And so in closing, I need to do two things. One is announce who is going to be our live stream winner, and for our $20 Pug Parties gift voucher, which is our way of saying thank you for coming and dropping by and saying hello and joining in on the chat, which I really do appreciate. And I really do love seeing your comments. It's just wonderful. And I'd like to say hello to Jennifer Redford, who's joined us tonight and has said some lovely things about Charles. He's very impressed, believe me. And so, Jennifer, I'll be sending you a message in the next 24 hours to get your details so that we can send you your gift card and you can spoil your puggy. Or if you don't have a puggy and you're just a pug lover, but you know another pug, then you can spoil them, which is absolutely awesome in my opinion. And so in closing, I'd just like to say, please hang around and share moments about your senior pug. I'm sure that they've done something that has your heart skip a beat, or you've wondered how in God's name they managed to do that. As in walk all the way to that car park without being seen by anyone. And I'm telling you, that yellow submarine jacket is definitely going to stop him from doing it in the future. So please pop them in the comments section. I'd love to hear them. And as I said before, if you are interested in joining us for a Sunday in the future where you get to talk about your pug, then please send us an email, drop us a DM or pop a comment below and let us know that you're interested and we'll be in contact. Next Sunday, we'll be talking about Rosie, and for the first time ever, I'll be talking about what it's like having a girl pug, which we've never had before, and how she has stolen Andrew's heart. Her chosen human is her daddy. And it's actually quite cute to see the way that she looks at him. And she's got him twisted, don't tell him I said this, around her paw. Believe me, it is amazing. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me and Charles. Charles is very, very impressed, so much so that he's decided to go back to sleep. And we'll catch you. If we don't catch you in the comments after the live stream, then we'll catch you next week. And thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone.